Welcome back to REV Endurance Sports. And today I would like to start a new series of videos. I did a similar series when I was getting ready to do Paris-Brest Paris, PBP. So this is going to be a very similar series to that. And this is the road to the Front Range 1200K. So let's see, today is Wednesday. Sometime last week, I signed up for a 1200 kilometer event in Colorado. And so I wish to take you through my process of preparing for it. So today is May the 28th. The event is June 19th. So we have less than a month of preparatory work to do. But I want to talk to you about that. So in this series, obviously, we're going to talk about my training. We're going to talk about clothing, accessories. There's some mandatory things you need to have, especially when riding at night. There are some things that are personal choices of mine. The bike setup, of course. And I've kind of been alluding to these things in several videos, in particular the bike. So this is coming up on June 19th. Now, it's a 4-day event. When I did Paris-Brest Paris, you had a time limit. I think it was like 80. I'm sorry, I don't remember, but 80. I signed up for the time slot with the most hours because I had no clue and I wanted to have a cushion. So I believe I signed up for the 84, 87. I think there's 80, 84, 87 categories, hours, I mean. And on this event, I don't know what the hours are, but the first day is like 250-ish miles with like 10,000 feet. Actually, let me put this disclaimer in. They don't have the routes yet for the 2025 course. They are showing what they did in 2023, so that's all I have to go by. Anyway, the next day is like 180 something, 190 something, and then another 130 on the last day. So it all adds up to 750 miles or 1,200 kilometers, so that it is considered a grand randonnée. The interesting thing about this event for me is going to be getting off the bike and then resuming the next morning. I believe it's like a set time that they roll out again. Whereas, like, let's say PBP, I just took rest time when I wanted to and got back on a bike when I wanted to. So that's different. Also, for 600 kilometer events, I don't stop. So generally on 600 kilometer events, I ride straight through the night. And what that means is that most 600Ks that I've seen, they have a 400K, so about 250 miles into it, they have like a hospitality suite at a hotel, or they may have, just a room where people can come and eat and take a nap or something like that, or may have their gear brought forward to that location. So maybe a bag with a clean kit, additional nutrition, and maybe your additional lights or battery packs or something like that, which you might send forward. But on the 600Ks, I pretty much ride them straight through. My Achilles heel when I was doing 500 milers, so 800 or whatever K that is, was I always got sleepy throughout the night. And it was very hard from like 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. or just before the sun rose around 6. And I found a few supplements to take that keep me awake throughout the night. It doesn't give me the jitters. It doesn't do any of that stuff. So that's been working for me to be able to ride through the night. Now, let's talk about what is a typical process and typical training to get to a 1200K. So generally speaking, you will be doing a series, a super randonneur series, 200K, 300K, 400K, 600K. So for my Imperial folks, 125 miles, 187 miles, 252 miles, and then 374, 375 miles. And then once you've done the 200, 300, 400, 600, that's a super randonneur series. Then you can apply for a 1200K. However, they sometimes do a look back to what did you do last year? Or when was your last super randonneur series? Or when was your last 1200K? So that is how I got into this front range 200K. I did a series last year. I did a 200, 300, 400, which was based on the 8K series, which means 8,000 meters of climbing. So it was a 250 miler with 17,000 feet. It was just hard. And then there was a 600K with the 8K meters of climbing. So 8,000 meters of climbing. So that was 370 something with 26,000 feet of climbing. It was brutal. Rain, all that stuff. So I did that Super Randonneur series in 2024. I did two 600Ks. So I guess that has allowed me to get into this 1200K this time. And now, of course, if I complete this 1200K, then that'll be nice to have because I can go and do, I guess grandfathered in because, oh, last year you did a 1200K. Maybe that stands for something. I don't know all the official rules. Here's what I do know. I'm on the official registered list, and I did not do a brevet, a Super Randonneur series this year. So that's why I'm sharing that with you. In case some of you are wondering, oh, how do I get into some of these events you're doing? That is the logical progression. And the reason it's that way is, well, I don't know why they created it that way. Let me tell you what I think is a benefit of it that being done that way. You get to work out your kinks in each one of those events. So if you're like, oh, on that 300K, I just barely had enough battery on my computer. Next time, I need to bring a power pack. Or, on the 400K, I just barely made it on my headlight. Or one of my headlights broke, and luckily I had a spare. Nutrition, or, oh, I stopped too much on that 400K. There's no way I'm going to make the time limit on the 600K, right? So you get to, as you go through each one of these, you get to improve, and I was a manufacturing engineer in a former life. And in that former life, Kaizen and continuous improvement, process improvement. So every process was looked at all the time. How could you improve that process so that your result was either always the same or better if you improve the process? All right, so that's how you get your training, and that's how you get your logistics and equipment and all that stuff ironed out. I don't have the benefit of that this year. I've only done a 200K this year. I haven't done the 3, 4, or any 600s at all. So I've had to just basically ramp up my training in a very short period of time. One of the reasons was because I was a little lazy and didn't have a goal event for the year. So that's kind of where that came down. That's why I didn't do the 3, 4, 600Ks. But Tommy Southwood and I, and by the way, we just did a podcast and it's out there. It's two guys talking podcast, episode 1. Tommy is doing that Colorado 1200K. And I'm like, wow, this would be cool if we can do this together. This is the furthest west he's going to come. He lives over in Indiana. So the whole purpose of this is for he and I to ride together. And that means you're riding at the pace of the slowest person, right? Not the pace of the fastest person, but the pace of the slowest person, so that the two of us can get through the event together. So let's go back to my training. I've had to just kind of ramp it up in a very short period of time. And I was doing 150, 200 mile weeks, kind of on the regular. Shop's been busy. I'm sure a lot of you have seen many of the videos of all the builds I've been doing. So, but then I said, okay, if I'm going to do this, let me see how my legs will feel if I increase the training. And because I wasn't able to get these long distance rides in, I decided to work on frequency rather than the length of a ride. So instead of the longer and longer duration of my rides, I have focused on increasing my rides. So I was doing, 6-day blocks or 10-day blocks of riding. So even though I normally would take a rest day, I would ride through that rest day just so I can keep the accumulated fatigue on my legs. So some of the data from that is I had a 369 mile week with 32,000 feet of climbing, so 27 and a half hours on the bike. Then I had family in town. Then that carried over for another week because since I was out of the shop for a week, when I came back, I had a lot of work to do, so I couldn't ride that much that week. But that's life. The following week was a 300-mile week with 16,500 feet, 20 hours. Then the following week was 334 miles with 29,000 feet, 25 and a half hours. And then the week that just ended was 461 miles with 30,000 feet and 32 plus hours on the bike. So how do I feel? Well, the funny thing is that I was talking to Sean about a week ago, and he was doing massive weeks. And on one of those days, he says, my legs feel numb. And, you could take that in two ways. Are they numb because you don't feel them because, wow, I feel great? Or I don't feel them, they don't respond to the efforts that I'm trying to put into them. My legs yesterday was a rest day. So Monday, Memorial Day, here in the States, was the 7th day of riding, and it was 50 miles, 5,000 feet before the final descent. So it's constant up and down climbing. And my legs felt great. So that is a very, very good sign. One other thing. I used to hold a climbing camp here, and then COVID kind of destroyed all of that. But I used to hold a climbing camp here in San Diego, and it was 50,000 feet in 5 days. But the majority of it was on the first 4 days because the last day was a recovery day, and there was only like 3,000 feet or so on that day. By day 4 of that 5-day camp, I almost always felt fantastic, meaning I had, 40,000 feet of climbing on my legs. Each day was about 100, somewhere less, somewhere more. So about 400 miles, about 40,000 feet on my legs, and I felt great. So I'm hoping that this is the same thing that's going to happen at the Colorado event. A couple of things to contend with, of course, is I live at sea level. I think we're only going over 9,000 feet. So I think I should be okay. We have 10,000 footers here in not San Diego, but in Southern California. And we have a 14,000 that you can go up as well on your bike called White Mountain Peak. But yeah, when I go up to 10,000, I don't usually have any issues. But one thing you may want to consider if you're from, sea level and you're going to these higher elevations, the first couple of days, either you get there immediately. If you get there and immediately start racing, you're fine. If you spend some time there, then you start degrading in performance. I've had this happen to me before. The first few days at elevation, I'm fantastic. And then after that, I start degrading. I don't know. Someone can explain the physiology underneath in the comment section down below. Okay, so once again, new series of videos. This is all going to be in a playlist. Front range, road to front range 1200K. I welcome anyone who has done this event or any 1200Ks in Colorado. I'm interested in terrain. I'm interested in weather. I'm interested in all of these things that you folks can provide for me. When I was getting ready for Paris Press Paris, Mathieu from outside of Paris was my inside guy. He had all the information for me, and it was amazing that I met him at the finish. That was just crazy. But and there's a short video of that on the channel. So I'm interested in all those things because I need to know more about what types of things I should pack. Everyone talks about afternoon thunderstorms and things like that. So of course I'm going to bring at least my Gore-Tex shake dry jacket. I just don't know what else to bring. So I'm looking for advice on those things as well. So let's share this information with each other. Road conditions. In the description, I'll post the link of the event and anything else. Yeah, let's do it. Let's have a community of an exchanging of ideas. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you up the road.